Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Walking Dead. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's pick up with Connie and Virgil's situation. I'd actually completely forgotten that, Connie had met up with Virgil. I'd completely forgotten about that. And I do like that we don't immediately pick it up oh, what's happened. We're kind of in the middle, we're at the middle of all that. We don't see how they got to where they are, just they're running from something. And you never really get a clear picture because it's whatever it is to the ground. I'm what the hell is that? And so, and obviously the problem is the two people that can't necessarily communicate, they're at a disadvantage under these circumstances. So Virgil suggests that they run to a house and hide there. Obviously it's surrounded by walkers, so they lock themselves in. And he checks the place out and can't find anything, and it's fine. So he's suggesting that Connie rest, but for her, she's like, no, she can't. Because it seems like probably ever since she escaped from the horde that the Whisperers had put together, she hasn't really had a chance to rest. And we get little sprint, little, I was saying sprint, little sparks here and there of her memories of being stuck with them, because she was trapped in there for days, no light. It's already bad enough, she's at a disadvantage because she can't hear, and then at the same time, it's being devoid of light. She'd have food and stuff like that, being trapped amongst him for days like that. Even when it's all said and done, she's not going to be 100% okay after this. It's going to take some time to because that's also why she didn't want to rest, because she was terrified for what was behind her, but also if she closed her eyes. I mean, because there's so many layers to it. Because one, she couldn't close her eyes amongst the dead. She had to always stay awake. She had to stay vigilant just to make sure, because she is down one sense. So she always had to visually be, or at least feeling around to at least test the vibrations of understanding what's going on around her. So there's that. Now there's something else coming after you, and so you can't rest, because she also can't go to sleep, because because when she closes her eyes, she probably just sees that all over again. So being trapped again. So it's because there's also on some level it's right, if I go to sleep and wake up, what if I find out I never actually left? What, I'm still inside with all the dead? So it's she just refuses to rest, and so she wants to check the place out more, and she does. And I think because of Connie's situation, it does create obviously I say it's Connie's situation, but obviously it applies to the actress who plays Connie as well. It's the situation of the moments where the episode goes completely silent. It's because this is the worst, because that's what makes Connie's situation so complicated, because it's this is not the best situation to be in, under her circumstances. I mean, obviously Kelly's kind of going through that a little bit, but obviously she hasn't gotten to the stage that Connie, as it seems she still has some of her hearing, but with Connie is just. And especially because this house situation ended up not just being oh, you don't have to just worry about the walkers outside. It turned into God, what was the word I was looking for? A house of horrors. Ended up being, because she saw an eye through a hole in the cabinet, because it's oh, this is where old blades go or whatever, when you're done with razor blades or something, you dispose of them there. She saw an eyeball there, and she's trying to tell Virgil, and it's right, they're writing notes back and forth, but then the pencil broke. She took the knife and carved it into a painting, we're not alone. He checks, but there's nothing there, and it's right, were you actually, I'm sure you saw what you saw, but it could just be because you didn't sleep. But then the moment they're walking, a door slides, and it's straight up a booby-trapped house, and they're separated. And the only reason why she was able to stay a step ahead was because she felt the walls rumbling, and she knew something was coming, so she was able to run. But we see these people on all fours. I'm what? Wait. It's okay, so we're not even dealing with zombies. We're kind of in the Hills Have Eyes territory to a certain extent. We are dealing with cannibals. These are people who are so far gone that because Virgil even talks about it later on. They were leading them. They're even that mailbox was made to go oh, you need to go here. There's a house for shelter. Because later on, when everything's, I'll circle back to it. But Kelly's off on her own looking for Connie. That all right, she goes in the wrong direction because the mailbox had gotten knocked over. So it's right, now that it served its purpose, just in case there might be backup, they probably got rid of it. They probably got rid of the mailbox. So it's right, you wouldn't think to go to, because you see the mailbox, you're right, maybe they went this way to find shelter, so they trap people. I mean, it's not like Connie and Virgil were the first one, because Connie went downstairs, she found a whole bunch of bones. So, like, they've been doing this for a while. Like, I mean, that's always the thing, like, how long until someone gets into that point? I mean, you run out of food. I mean, Alexandria is not going to go there. But also you have to remember, too, is like, this ain't even our first time dealing with cannibalism in this. Like, was it Terminus was like our first instance of cannibalism in this continuity. I mean, well, if in the grand scheme of the Walking Dead continuity in the show, yes. I'm thinking of, like, spoilers, season 1 for the Telltale Walking Dead. That was like chapter 2 of the game that they introduced cannibalism. So, like I said, different stages at different points. Because I don't even know if that would be technically considered. I think it falls in some lines in certain continuity, but I think it's still just kind of its own thing. So, I think that story could still probably exist in the continuity without contradicting anything else that's in there, like specifically the comic, because that's like the true golden source of material, I guess you could. Regardless, I'm going on a whole tangent. But, her being inside that wall and just, like, once again, the complicated thing of, like, Virgil separated from her and she's, like, banging on the wall, but she can't communicate to him, like, hey, it's me. And he's just, like, you know, cause I think she's probably trying to knock in Morse code, but, like, once again, the situation of these two people don't understand each other and kind of stuck together. And so she's trying to warn him that there's one behind him. And luckily she was able to distract it with the knocking so that he could, like, get away, but he's walking towards the wall because he's thinking it's another one. Like, probably in his mind it's like, oh, you were trying to distract me while your buddy snuck up behind me and tried to get me. And so he starts stabbing the wall. Luckily she was able to reach through the wall, and he was like, oh, Connie. So I was like, that could have gone sideways. But even to the point I thought was interesting, progression in, you know, Virgil's story being like, right, I'm gonna get you out of here, even if no matter what happens to me, you need to get out of here. Which Connie is like, no, if we get out of here, we get out of here together, you know. After all they've been through. But also it's like, you know, they don't leave each other behind. That's kind of like the staple of the group they've been a part of, you know, both the OG group she was a part of, as well as the group that she joined with, like, Rick, Alexandria, and all that. But for Virgil, he talked about, like, right, I was in a very bad place. I'd gone off the map. I'd gone off the road. But, like, Michonne pointed me in the right direction. I got a second chance to do things right. And that road led me to you. So I had to, like, I found you. There's a reason behind it. So at the very least, I want to make sure that chance that Michonne gave me isn't wasted. I need to get you back home to your family, you know? And I'm going to try doing that. And even if I have to die in the process, but she's like, no, in this together. So they try to get out. But sadly, in the process, they get attacked and Virgil gets hurt. I was like, please don't let this, like, because you're also scared. Like, it's like they wouldn't bring Connie back just to kill her, but I'm like, you don't know. Because what I always remember in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm blanking on her name now, but I want to say it's Emily, right? Maggie's sister. I'm blanking on her name. Like, it's like, you know, that went, like, they got separated, obviously, in season 4. They meet up again in season 5 in the hospital. And just when they meet each other again, she gets killed. I was like, please don't let this be a repeat of that. Please don't let something terrible happen in that regard. Luckily, they got out because Connie was able to cover herself up in the walker's guts and stand in front of Virgil and, like, use the door to kind of block them as they brought all the walkers in to deal with these golem / you know, cannibals. So, like I said, that just very, like, twisted circumstances to find themselves in. But luckily, Kelly and, you know, and the others found her, and just, like, you know, the first thing she says to her sister, like, I'm sorry, and it's just kind of like, no, and to just hug each other. I'm like, yeah, reunited after everything. It's like, you know, because for Connie, you know, that's why she rushed out alone. I mean, for Kelly, why she rushed out alone, because it's like, if now knowing her sister's alive, and it's like, if something happened to her, like, you know, she'd never, you know, essentially never forgive herself. But Carol was like, no, we'll find her, because she found Connie's notebook about, you know, and there's like the communications between her and Virgil, you know, obviously the conversation about, like, oh, Michonne, it's why, you know, I'm hearing everything. So it gave them like knowing, like, right, they were here, but they ended up moving on. So something happened that kind of made them have to run away. So, but luckily they're reunited. So you kind of have a happy ending on that front. Like I said, I don't think it's over for Connie when it comes to everything. Hopefully, I think Virgil's going to get patched up and just be a part of the group. But I'm curious to see where things kind of going forward for them. the part of me is like, it's going to be interesting too, where I think at the end, it's going to be complicated to see where Daryl, how this whole thing's going to play out with Daryl, with the whole situation of like, right, he cares about Leah, but then there's also Connie as well. And I think that's going to change a lot, because obviously he met Leah before him and Connie got close. Like, they never really had a chance for things to kind of go for, but it was like there was something there. So I don't think it's going to be a situation of he's going to have to choose, like, oh, either save Connie. Well, there could be circumstances later on it's like, right, they want to kill Connie and he has to choose between, like, you know, protecting her, and because he does care about Leah, so that's why he's sticking around. But it's also advantageous of like making sure like Maggie and the others are okay. So there's that element to it. Which speaking of, that dude is getting tortured, and he wants Daryl to do, because he's even asking like, "Oh, this too much for you?" He's like, "No, I've actually done worse." And so he sends Daryl in to get some answers, and you know, him and the dude and Daryl giving each other looks like it's kind of like, all right, like, give me whatever information you can give me, just point us in direction, because it's like you need to give them an address, just even if it's the wrong one, like give them the wrong address, probably, like, or give me a address enough where I can warn everybody, but also like they won't get it. So he ends up cutting the dude's finger off, and I think it speaks volumes, and I think Pope picked up on it. It's like the moment he started, like, moments like, oh, you cut my finger off, it's like, fine, I'm gonna talk now. Like, after all the torture, this is what finally pushed him over the edge to finally start talking. You know, it's like, because I know, like, he's got some inkling of, like, right, Daryl's just trying to play us, but he's trying to see how sincere Daryl is about this. Even Carver, like, pulling out a gun, like, right, if you try anything, like, I got you. So they go to investigate. But luckily, Daryl was separated enough that he could, like, pull down, like, I guess it was a phone line or whatever, and like Maggie saw the cord down, and I guess that was like a key sign of like, right, like someone's coming, and that was kind of like their code sign. I guess Maggie either filled him in, or at some point that dude did, whatever the case may be, or at the very least maybe it was just kind of like a, because for all we know that might not have been like, because I could be, it's been a while, but that might have been like an old code sign between Daryl and Maggie. That might be what that is. I don't know. That might be something only, it would seem like it would be something obviously they would only recognize, but whatever the case may be, they check the house, and obviously it's like, they're not in this house, so let's check the nearby area. They find another house. It's like, right, they were just here, but it seems like they're gone. Because at first Daryl was like, oh, let's stick around this first place. There might be something else here. It's like, no, let's move on. They go to the second place. Daryl's like, yeah, let's just kind of move on. That might be. But Carver's like, whoa, what are you doing? First you want us to stay. Now you want us to go. I'm like, oh, I would have made the argument. I wanted to stay and you told me to go. So now you saying like, and I'm like, oh, I guess we got to go. It's like, I would have been like, make up your damn mind. Like, what do you want me to do? Because Daryl notices like there's an underground hatch. And so he slides the carpet like over more to cover up where they are, and it also drops the information to Maggie and them about like, right, you think like they're probably ran away and they're going to, why would they come back here? They're going to regroup the larger group. Like you got your group of 20 people. Once again, Daryl making sure, getting that perfect count, like telling them, yeah, you're fully armed and stuff like that. So now Maggie and them have a better understanding of like who they're up against. So once again, it's like, yes, Negan, this is how it's done without like, I mean, granted, it's not going to end up as bad as the whole Hilltop situation with the whole whispers, but obviously home dude ends up getting killed regardless. It is interesting though, because Leah's like, right, like at the end of the day, you have to choose a side. You're either with us or you're not. He's like, I am with you. And she's like, then stop picking fights with Carver. It's like, actually, that never ends well. Trust me. And so you can tell, obviously, like Daryl is kind of antagonizing, so he can casually bring up all that information so he can give it to them about what's going down. But then it's like, oh, you expect us like, because we also got some interesting insight, because it turned out Leah didn't know about it. I thought, I was like, oh man, she was in on like Pope's plan to burn down the place down. Like she knew it's like, no. Even she wasn't sure about that, because he's like, you know, the whole conversation, but like, oh, I got your back and stuff like that. And it's like, right. But she's like, really, do you? Because, you know, because like, I guess his whole situation with Daryl had happened before, and so he was like, yeah, I'm just trying to look out for you. And she's like, really? If you're looking out for me, does that include locking me in there? It's like, you knew what Pope was up to. And he's like, basically everything with Pope is a test. Pope is paranoid. He doesn't know who to trust. So it's like, yeah, he puts everyone through the test, even Leah, because he wanted to test her allegiances of like, right. And for her, she feels like this is all she has. And so even Daryl's like, nah, I made it like, the fact of the matter is, I don't trust any of you. I'm not here for any of you. I'm only here for Leah. Like, I make that perfectly clear. And like, he's like, I made that perfectly clear. He's even saying like, Pope scares me, but if you trust him, I trust him. So it's like, I like that because it's being truthful. Like, the only person he cares about in his group is Leah, and, you know, spilling the truth in that regard. We'll see if that comes back to bite him in the ass later on, but it is enough to kind of appease, like, you know, because Leah's like, right, like, let's just leave, but Carver's still like, fine, you give the orders. But then he notices the hatch, and it's like, all right, it's like, they're already going on, and then it's like, yeah, they are. Luckily, Daryl gave them enough time to learn what they needed to do, but also get them so distracted they wouldn't probably hear them, like, sneaking out. So that works out perfectly, and Daryl being like, see, I told you they weren't here. But so when the moment they get back, Pope is actually happy. He's not disappointed because he's like, oh yeah, like that guy, like the moment he left, I started having a conversation with him. He wasn't very talkative, but I got all the information I needed out of him. Like, now I didn't know how to interpret that because even Daryl wasn't 100% sure how to interpret that. But we see like he's tied to the tree. He's dead now. He's a walker. So either he was saying like, right, the fact is he didn't talk speaks volumes. The fact is that he pointed you in the direction of where they were, but didn't, like, you know, but you weren't able to get them. So it's like, for him, it's like the moment, like, oh, Daryl starts torturing and he starts talking, but now when I'm start doing my thing, he doesn't. So either it's implying like that was enough for him to be like, right, there's something shady going on there, and he's playing it close to the vest, or it's implying that home dude was talkative. So, but the moment he's walking away, like Pope and Carver just kind of laughing it up, talking, and even Leah's just kind of looking because like it pisses her off because it's like, right, like you were supposed to trust me, and it's just like everything is a test. Like you sent all three of us on purpose. Like this was just a test within a test type of situation. And obviously you see Daryl looking at the guy because it's like, damn, like, because I think Daryl was hoping that he could at least keep the guy alive long enough and maybe find a way out of this for both of them. It's like, of course it wasn't going to go that way. And even that guy, he died, you know, protecting Maggie and them. So it sucks, but circumstances they find themselves in. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, because I'm curious, like, will Daryl be able to convince her to turn against Pope, or is she just so, because even now she's like questioning, not necessarily questioning Pope, like she just doesn't like the whole test and knowing like, oh, my loyalty should never be tested, like I chose this family. But it's like now Daryl being here, it seems like whether she really realizes it or not, but on some level she's second guessing a lot of this now that Daryl's here. And I think him saying what he said means a lot to her, like, right, like, I'm not into this whole family squad thing. Like, but once again, like, I wonder, is Carver going to say something to Pope about that? And is that going to have some kind of effect on Pope's view on Daryl if he doesn't? I don't know. It's hard to say what he knows. Because I feel like if he really didn't fully, like, if he didn't, like, have some inklings of trusting Daryl, he would remove him from the equation right now. But maybe keeping Daryl around is like, no, I already know I can't trust you. I'm keeping you around to see whether or not I can trust Leah to do what's necessary when the time comes. So maybe he's just trying to, like, give Daryl enough rope to hang himself, but also trying to see, like, if Leah needs to hang with him. I think that's what that's kind of being set up to be about. But we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out, because I'm curious, like, now that I'm wondering they're going to circle back to get Alden, now that they kind of got a better idea of what's going on. They've got Daryl on the end. I'm curious to see what, like, Maggie and them decide to do next episode. It's going to be interesting to see where all this ends up taking us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.